the paperwork, inspections, negotiations. Now, I know some agents that have led with, oh my God, you wouldn't believe all the paperwork involved. You don't want to do this, I'll do that. If they've never done it, they don't know what the paperwork is involved. I'm meeting with a senior I mentioned, and we're doing, I'm not even taking those papers over. We're doing escrow initial instructions, and he has to sign all of those. I'm doing my second round of disclosures, and I think I counted, it was 28 pages or so. And the first round was around that same amount. So there's a lot of paperwork involved. Telling somebody all that isn't going to really impress them a whole lot. Okay, so there it is. But going back to, I like when they talk about marketing the home. If you notice, that was the #1 thing. Agents you'll hear all the time will talk about selling their home. There's a difference when you can present yourself, and this is something that helps you to have conversation. It not only makes you stand out. Hey, no, I can market your home. There's a difference between selling and marketing. Would you like to hear the difference? Then if people are really interested in selling their home, they're going to say yes. Because, well, what do you mean? What's the difference? And boom, that's when you start to create some of your own personal value, that this is what you can bring to the table. When you're marketing a home, it's much more than price. Again, my old sucky brokerage, their thing was the price is the marketing. That's all you had to worry about. Just if you put it at the right price, it'll sell. Well, that means that you become the eBayer of agents. And you can even say that when you talk to people. Hey, you know what? Some people, they just say price is the only thing about selling a home. And it's true. If we just put it down to the lowest price that we can conceivably think of, it'll probably sell. But that's not marketing your home. And I want to help you get your home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Doesn't that sound good? And bingo, you've just made a difference where it's like, okay, this is the difference between just selling the home and this is marketing the home. And if you notice how I phrased it right now, I kind of led them in a way of saying things where this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. Doesn't that sound good to you? And I'm leading them to an answer and helping them understand, hey, this is the progression that we're doing. So first one, marketing the home. I had a condo I was selling, and he was all about that. He was an emotional, touchy-feely guy, and I talked about him before, but he was all about let's market the home. And exactly what I said, get the most with the least amount of hassle in the shortest amount of time. Then the first home I sold was on Ogden and Miracle Mile, and it was the mother's home, and she was already in a senior, she was in a senior community in memory care, and it was pretty advanced, and they needed to pay for that. So, because right now they were paying out of their pockets. So they wanted to sell the home as quickly as we could. So for them, their time frame was, nope, let's not drag this out. And it was at the time too, when anybody could post a sign in their front yard and it would sell. There was, I mean, we have a seller's market now. This was the unbelievable seller's market that wasn't healthy. So for them, we literally were on the market 8 days, and we got an offer. We got 2 offers we liked, and we took one of the offers. And we were done in, I think it was 20 some days. Because it was an all cash thing, and boom, we were done. But their motivation was they needed in a certain time frame. Again, I have the listing that right now I'm in escrow with. He doesn't even live here. He lives in Seattle area. So for him, the time frame isn't as big of a deal because there is no urgency there. So I've had to adjust some of my strategy and some of my expectations to that. When he was flipping that home and another home, one of the next one is advice on improvements. He's flipped homes, so he knows, but he's flipped them in Seattle. So he started asking me questions about landscaping. I know what we do up here, but what do you guys look for down there? What sells? What's hot right now? And so I was starting to give him advice on that kind of thing. You know, I would even send him, hey, and this is the kind of thing where I would look up, I would Google it. I would look it up, and I would look at, you know, hey, here's some latest trends on gardens, or here's latest trends on landscaping. And I would cut and paste and choose and whatever, and I send it to him and just say, here's some ideas. So that is a way that I had value for him, that I was giving him advice. Hey, this is what will help the home sell. Some of the other things that he would ask me is like, okay, well, we're putting in these sort of appliances. What do you think? Yep, that sounds good. Other things was, what about a sprinkler system? Should we put in a sprinkler system or not? Blah, blah, blah. And Eric and I, we had this talk at the open houses, where some of that is, that's when your expertise comes in. And it's just the idea of, you know, the market. It's not, you know, it's not like, oh, you're the guru of everything. Sometimes you might say, you know what, let me do some research and get back to you on that. Now you may Google and think, why am I Googling when they can Google? Because you want to be their agent. And you're the one that, as you're Googling, you're becoming more of an expert. So Google, find out what's out there. For him, one of the questions was sprinklers. And I said, yeah, if you were selling a $1.2 million home, yes, a sprinkler system would be expected. The price point that we were at, which was $620, it's not going to make or break the sale. Nobody's going to come in and say, well, what else did you cut corners on? He ended up putting it in because he found out when the plumber was there, it wasn't going to cost him that much more. So he went ahead and threw it in there. But it's one of those things that he was asking me, because is this going to make or break the sale? You know, what do you think? But in all of that, write this down. It's not your needs, it's your client needs. It's not your time frame, it's your client's time frame. Because it's so easy for us to get excited about wanting to do the deal and not pulling back and think like, well, wait, where are they at? And I'll be completely open here. When I was selling a home in Outpost Estates, I was looking at double ending the deal. And when we first talked to her, and I've known this woman for years, she was definitely going to move. And it was right at a time where things were getting pretty lean for us. And it was like, I needed that sell. But realtors, there's a phrase out there called commission breath. And it's basically, you're so eager to sell the home because you want that money. People know that, and people can sense that. So I had to constantly tell myself, look, it's in her time frame and it's in her needs. She actually had a medical thing that came up, and so it kind of delayed everything for a while, which was fine. And then we eventually sold the home, and yay. But I couldn't put my needs, my wants, my desires ahead of hers. It's about her being first. Okay, so next slide. Thank you. Mr. Superman who doesn't drink. We found out, you know, that this morning. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys, what do you know about the process of converting a lead to a listing? What tools have you kind of learned or used, or tell me what you got. Julia, I know you've sold tons of homes. Tell me. Okay, do you have something, Michael? Okay, you were highlighted, so that's the only reason why I was wondering. Okay, well, yay. Okay, when somebody has said, look, I raised my hand, I need to sell my home, then you're going to start to put together a process of, this is what we need to do. And that's going to be based on who they are, what their needs are, and who you are.
And their motivation to buy?
Yes.
To sell?
Yeah, big part of it, big part of it. When we're talking about all of this too in Ignite, I've said this before when I've taught other Ignites, they've had to create everything you're reading here, okay, has been created for all agents in all demographics, in all areas of the nation, with all experience and with all different styles. So that means you may tweak things a little bit. Case in point, I have a blue wall behind me, okay? And we love our living room. Oh my God, I painted it blue and then I trimmed it into what's like a light yellow cream eggshell, and it's stunning. I have the original oak floors, it's beautiful. That's what I like. If somebody was redoing their home for the first time and wanting to sell it, I'm like, paint the walls white, you know, do it in white, okay? Reason why I'm saying that is this is my style. And when they're doing this, this is painted white. So start to make it your color, start to make it the things you want. The pre-listing packet, your listing presentation, your marketing materials. Think of this as this is giving you the basics and the skeleton. You start to put the meat and everything on it and put things in and take things out and modify it the way that it fits you. Let's see, in that, even if we're talking about our demographics, some neighborhoods are cookie cutter. So you go to, especially, let's say you go out to Rancho Cucamonga and you're driving out there, and hopefully it's not for dinner. Hopefully it's on the way to Vegas or, you know, to go to Big Bear. But you're driving out there and you notice that all those homes are cookie cutter homes. Boom, 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 boom. And most of that area is pretty new, like the last 20 years or so. Well, when you're selling to somebody like that, when you're working with somebody in that kind of a neighborhood, you're going to approach it differently than somebody who, let's say they do live in Hollywood Hills, that some homes have been there since the turn of the century. You know, other homes were built in the 50s and ready to get torn down. Other homes are brand new right next to it. That's a whole different demographic. And so you approach that sort of thing differently.
What's the most important question?
When you're talking to the sellers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think, okay, there's going to be a list of questions we go through in the pre-listing packet, but this is something a really good friend of ours told us years ago, who was a therapist. She said, everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to be heard, and everybody wants to be understood. So I think one of the best questions, if you can only ask one of somebody, you ask them, what do you expect from your listing agent? Because that'll kind of put that should tell you the most important thing. Are they looking at, well, I need somebody to give me advice. I need somebody to sell my home easily. I need the most amount of money for my home and an agent that can get that for me. I think that's the most important thing. What are they looking for? And bringing that up, in couples counseling, I can tell you that my fiance Jamal and I, that came up one time where, you know, one of us said, well, multiple times, you know, well, what is it that you are really wanting? And Sue told us, she goes, that's one of the best questions you can ask, because then you're asking directly, like, okay, give me you're not guessing. You're not trying to outthink them. So same thing when it comes to this. What are you really looking for in a listing agent? You know, somebody that is going to be selling your home. What's the number one, what's the most important thing to you? And then that would probably be the best first question to start off with. And that'll tell you a lot too. You know, it'll give you a priority. When it comes to some of the ways you're going to do this, you're going to modify it according to that. So the neighborhood, like I was mentioning, Rancho Cucamonga, you may be very analytical, and depending on their personality, if they're direct, you may want to make it very succinct, but still you may want to be analytical in your approach, where look, here's 20 other homes exactly like yours that sold in the past 6 months, and this is what we're going to be, you know, looking at. You're going to say it much nicer, but that's basically what you're doing. But if you're in a neighborhood that they're on a hillside and they're the only house that has a view, or the only house that doesn't have a view in that neighborhood, or any of those things, then you're going to adjust that accordingly too. Even when you're talking to people, if you're in a neighborhood that has a high turnover, most likely these people have gone through this experience recently. So within the last 10 years. So they kind of know a lot of stuff that's involved. But if you're in an older neighborhood, especially, and people have been there, like I deal with seniors. So sometimes these people have been there 40, 50 years, and now they're thinking of moving because they're wanting to downsize or they need to move or for whatever reason. Then that's a whole different sort of, presentation, because now we're talking about more how ingrained they are, and they're in a unique neighborhood. So there may not be as much that we're going to talk about the other homes in the area as much as, well, what do we need to do about your home? What do you focus on? And so and the reason why I say all this, sometimes the pre-listing packet and the questionnaires, you're going to modify according to anything you know or find out. So there's going to be a few things you're going to go through. Pre-listing questionnaire. And you guys should have gotten that in your packet. That looks like this. How many of you guys have that? Okay, great. Throw it out because there's a typo. So I corrected it, and let me send you guys the corrected version. It's not a huge typo. I proofread the whole thing, but it's a typo nonetheless. And the reason why I'm being a little bit picky on that is if you send this to somebody and it has a typo, what does that tell somebody about how thorough you're going to be? Tonight, I'm supposed to be in a Whittier starting a year ago. We had our first Pride event festival. And they wanted to keep it up yearly, but we're in lockdown. So we have a committee meeting though tonight. And I got all the notes from the meeting from previously. There were typos all over that. Now, I just I really notice that stuff, and I get the fact it's for a meeting, but I was thinking, if any of this stuff goes public, we need to correct these typos. In that, there's a flyer that went out that was supposed to talk about all the different things that we want to do to stay safe on any gatherings. And I found 4 typos in that. Now that's supposed to be a poster. They want to go to social media. I did screenshot that and I sent it back to the coordinator and I said, hey, just want to let you know I found these typos. And she was like, oh, good catch. But that's the kind of stuff that it's going to reflect on the event. Same thing with this pre-listing questionnaire. If you're just asking questions and filling it out, okay, no big deal. But if they're like, well, can you send that to me? Or, can you email that to me? You want to make sure it looks good. You don't want typos. So going through the questionnaire real quick. All the basic stuff is at the top. This is pretty, generic. So if you want to drop in your own header or, something, you can easily do that. Don't think you have to have any of this stuff when you're asking questions memorized, because you just don't, period. Plus, nobody, when you're in a doctor's office and the doctor, is like, oh, so what's going on with you? And he's taking notes and he's kind of doing this. I like that a lot better. Well, now my doctor does this because everything, is electronic, but still, I like that a lot better than if it's, oh, I'll just remember this all in my head. I actually had a doctor that said he would do that. And I learned very quickly, he only remembered half of what I told him. So I actually brought in a sheet of everything I had concerns with, 2 copies. I gave him a copy and I kept a copy. So that way we didn't miss a thing. And even when I left, he had a copy of everything I needed to go through. So when you're doing this or any of the other things and you say go through, it's very good to say, hey, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Like the one I sent you, I just want to go over this together. If we weren't in COVID, obviously you would do this in person, but right now we're in COVID. So, and you could say, okay, let's just go through this. Some of these questions, if they don't apply, don't ask them. So again, go through these things ahead of time. Like, how did you hear about me? well, I've known you for 7 years. Okay, so don't ask that question, okay? Sort of thing. Or if you already know, don't ask that question, okay? But if somebody, contacted you and you've never met them before, then you can ask that question, if you really don't know. Where are you moving to? What's motivating you to get there? How soon do you have to be there? All of these are pretty, make sense. If we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? Now, for you, you maybe think, no, it doesn't pose a problem for me, but what if it does pose a problem for them? What if there's a bunch of stuff they need to move out? And that may actually be a longer question. The home right now that we're selling, the guy's not even living there anymore. It's his friends that are clearing out the home. And we were supposed to be able to change the locks last week. Then it was going to be Monday. Now it's supposed to be by today we can change the locks. I'm not upset over it. I get the fact that when people are going through things, it can take a while. So when you're asking somebody, if we sell your home in the next 30 days, is that a problem for you? Oh no, it's fine. And their house is full of crap. Then you may want to say, oh, okay, great. Have you started packing things up? Do do you have a strategy for that? This may be one of those questions you're going to start to go deeper into, but that's why you have this pre-listing questionnaire. You may find out the seller that wants to move as an A seller, they're ready to move within the next 2 weeks. It's like, that's maybe what you want to do, but at this pace, you're going to be a B or C seller because there's no way you're going to get it in time. Or you may have to bring in outside help to get you ready to sell by that time. What would happen if your home did not sell? So, you can ask that. The reason why sometimes that's relevant, what if they have to move? What if they have to be somewhere? Then that can be an issue. What if they have, and part of that could be they want to sell their home because they have another home they're buying and it's a contingency sale, meaning that they can buy this home if their home sells. So if this home doesn't sell, they can't buy their new home and move into it. So that would be an issue if their home doesn't sell. How much do you want to list your home for? And it's amazing how many people never want to list it for less than what it should sell for. It's always going to be above, and a lot of times much higher than above. But that's what you do. How much do you owe on the property? They may not have that answer. And, okay, can you get that answer to me? Because most people don't know what is the exact amount on their mortgage balance. Then when you say I'll be sending you a packet of information, will you take a few minutes to review it before we meet next time? That's just kind of like prepping. Hey, there's a few things I want to go through. If you're like, hey, I'm going to send you a packet of information, it could easily seem like junk mail. So just asking the question, do you mind reviewing it? But then if you send stuff to them, make sure, one, you know what's in there. Two, it's relevant to them. If there's stuff in there that isn't relevant, don't put it in there because you don't want to waste people's time. Then do you have any questions before we meet? Now, if you're already talking on the phone, you're going over this together, so be before next time we meet. And will all decision makers be there for the next time? And decision makers meaning, their spouse. What if somebody is like, oh no, I never make a decision without talking to my parents? I've had that happen before. When it's come to buyers, young buyers looking at a home, they've told me, oh no, I know we're talking about sellers right now, but I've had young buyers say, oh no, I don't make a decision without asking my parents. Okay, then let's have your parents come and take a look at the house, when we're reviewing it, that sort of thing. Then it has at the bottom, just so you know, our meeting's going to take so much time, and just prep them for that. Let them know, and even in the meeting, so it doesn't drag out, because let's face it, we all hate those meetings that just go on forever and ever, just like right now, I'm talking a lot, huh? But we all have those meetings that go on forever and ever, and you're like, oh my God. So if you have a certain time, and say, look, you can hold me accountable to that too. If we start, within 5 minutes of the end, if you're like, hey, we got 5 minutes left and that's all you're going to do, then that's all you're going to do. So, sorry, hang on. Mailman is here and my dogs want to protect. And we're good. Okay. So And then at the bottom, I look forward to meeting you, and even have them write down the time. It also helps if you send a text or an email with a reminder, you know, sort of thing, and put it in your calendar, a reminder maybe the day before. Hey, just want to remind you, you know, tomorrow we're meeting at blah, blah, blah time, Zoom, whatever. But that really helps because people forget. Believe it or not, you are not the most important thing that ever happened to them in the world. So you want to make sure that you keep on top of it. Okay. So that's a pre-listing questionnaire. Next, schedule a listing appointment. Now that's what we said at the bottom, but that is you're scheduling it if they're selling soon. What if there's somebody who's like, oh, we're going to sell, but we know we're going to sell probably in 4 months, or we're going to, you know, we're going to sell here. Okay. That's great. You're not going to set up a listing appointment because they're not even close in the range. But what you are going to do is you are going to say, okay, great. Instead of the week before, say, well, is it okay if I contact you just to keep touching base and make sure that, you know, that we're totally on the same page. If anything changes, you know, that kind of stuff, because I want to make sure that I am servicing you the best that I possibly can. And then when they say yes, that gives you permission, and it's a much better repertoire when you do it that way. And yes, I know what repertoire is, Ed, but that gives you a much better repertoire on your interaction with that person. So you can go ahead and then send them an email every so often, call them, send them a text, any of those things you can do, and it lets you keep in touch with them too. And it even makes it easier when it comes to, in the future, asking for a referral or asking for a review, because you already have now this relationship with them. Again, going to the beginning, your database is going to be your business. And just by keeping in touch, you've made this contact, this lead, somebody much stronger. The database isn't the idea you have so much in there and it's a quantity, it's a quality. So it's not the idea, oh, I have 800 people in my database. Well, big whoop. But what if you have 800 people that you know very well and you do a great job keeping in touch with? That database is really strong. So keeping in touch with somebody, even if they're a C, even if they're a ways away, that is still going to make that contact much stronger. And in the future, it's going to be able to ask for referrals, ask for reviews, that kind of thing. So let's say they're somewhere within A and B. Great. Let's set up a listing appointment. You get the time and date, you know, and you do that. Right now it's on Zoom. The next one is you're going to send a pre-listing packet. Okay. Now you can send it. The suggestions are email, mail, or have a delivery person do it, or yourself deliver it. Ask them what they want. Everybody, especially right now, we're all, even before COVID, people all have a different style. And sometimes it's based on their personality. Sometimes it's based on a number of factors, but everybody has their own style. Ask them what they want. Amal, you asked me earlier, what's the best thing to ask, you know, that. Again, you know, the first, you asked me a great question. What's the most important thing? Okay, you ask them. But same thing on this. How do they want to be communicated with? And same idea. Do they want it in the mail? Do they want it emailed to them? Or do they want it delivered to them? And some people right now are like, nope, I don't want anybody coming to my house. I don't want you touching my gate. Great. Is mail fine? You know, is that okay? Some people out there, they're like, I have a crappy inkjet printer. Can you mail it to me? Because I'm not going to print all this stuff out. No problem. Other people like me, I've got 3 laser printers at home. So email it to me. I'll print it out. Okay. It just depends on who they are. And so, but ask that question. How do they want to be presented to? And people appreciate that. The one thing that bugs me is when people are like, oh, I'm going to send you everything over DocuSign. And I'll get it. And they just expect me to click on it and I'll download it, I'll print it out and I'll read it. And I had somebody surprised. This wasn't a real estate thing, but somebody was surprised and they were like, well, why didn't you just DocuSign? Well, I wanted to read what I'm doing. I'm that type of a person. I want to print it out and I want to read it, you know, with coffee or a glass of wine. That's just the way I am. So send out a pre-listing packet. And then you're going to end up creating a listing presentation. I have a suggestion on that. Create a listing presentation that's generic. That when you're, you know, and if you guys have, well, if it's generic and it's a PDF and it's anywhere under, let's say 10 megabytes, you can even email it to yourself and keep it ready to go. Keep it in your Dropbox. You know, everybody can get a Dropbox for free. It's only above when you get, you know, so high that you have to pay for it. But put something there so instantly on the fly, you know, here you are, you're up in Big Bear and you're on the ski slopes and somebody says, hey, we're thinking about selling our house. You know, hey, do you mind if I contact you later on this? But right now I can send this out to you. Boom, you're ready to go. So if you make it generic, that's great. But if you can customize it, that's a little bit better. First, pre-listing packet is, I believe, this puppy. So this should have come in. And if you guys don't have it, guess what? I already had, yep, the gods that be, send it to me. There it is in Microsoft Word form. Why is it in Word? As I just kept bashing it, you know, at the beginning. Well, that means that almost everybody can edit it and make it their own. So, you guys have this in front of you. Yes, no, nod your head. Okay, I just uploaded it, and it's in the chat, so you can download it from there. Real quickly, it'll say some of the stuff we talked at the beginning. The basic thing at the top, it's all about you. It's all about you. And you want to keep emphasizing that. So much of real estate out there is about them. I've sold this many millions of dollars in homes. Oh, I have a team that's this big. I don't give a crap. What can you do for me? You're selling my home. I'm concerned about what is going to happen to me. When you're off and you're buying your new Beamer, that doesn't really affect me. How much money you can get for my house and how you can market it and how you can service me, that's what affects me. So it's all about you. It's all about the seller. And on this, it kind of breaks it down. Now, again, this is all in Microsoft Word, so you can edit and change this as much as you want. Oh, thank you, Ed. Then on the next page, it'll say, get ready to list, and the different 5 factors in there that affect that. Some of the factors in there will say price based on recent sales. Now, I don't know how well, yeah, you guys can kind of see that. But I even put in there afterwards, this is when you customize it, maybe put in the area. If somebody's reading through, and let me put it this way. Somebody's reading through and it says, oh, 5 factors. Number 1, based on recent sales. Okay. Based on recent sales in Whittier. Based on recent sales in Miracle Mile. Based on recent sales in Hancock Park. If you're customizing this and send it to someone, that's going to stand out more. Because now it's like, oh, this is my neighborhood. Now, underneath it is the same generic thing where it says, you know, comparable homes in the area that have recently sold, blah, 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 blah. But you've customized part of it. So now they also know, hey, this isn't just some generic thing you send out to everyone. And again, you may want to keep 2 copies in case you do have to do that and just send it out. Another one is, you know, location, including, and that could be where you could even put in, or I put location, then I put including. That could be where you mention stuff like including that homes with a view, because maybe this home does have a view, or location, including the unique size of your property, or any of those kind of factors. Again, putting stuff in that can personalize it even makes it that much more. It goes through the whole thing and it talks about competition timing. But one thing that I also want to point out, right there, you're going to see where it says competition, and it'll say blah, 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 comparing, and I put shopping. I talked about this before when it comes to, one of the other ignites. I talked about when you're talking about how much a home is worth. And the idea we tend to use in our industry, comparables. And people don't know what that means. And then you're having to explain it. Or CMAs, comparable market data. CMAs, comparable market analysis. People don't know what that means. And for some people, it's a little bit like, yeah, but I don't live in Rancho Cungabunga. My house is not exactly like the house next door. We did this, this, and this. And so instantly it kind of creates that my house isn't just like everybody else. Fine. So put in there, you know, if you just change it to prospective buyers are going to compare/shop, then it does put it a little bit more like, hey, it's not the idea that your house isn't special, but we need to look at this from the perspective of a buyer going to buy your home and they're shopping around. And then it kind of makes that easier for some sellers to take. Because if you have a seller that, again, is a high D, they don't care what terminology you use. But when I sold that condo and he was a high I, everything was touchy-feely. If I pointed out something that would be a little bit, and we had a great relationship, I've known him for years, but I would point out something a little bit negative, instantly it would be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, no, because the other one in the unit right above me, they haven't done this yet. Like, okay. So I would always have to present it to him and say, hey, Rich, when people are coming into your condo, don't forget they're shopping around at the other condos in the area. Now, the cool thing is you have this, this, and this that's unique about it, but they are going to go ahead and look at yours and shop for other ones as well. And then that kind of let them know, like, look, it's not about you. This isn't personal. It's just taking from the buyer's perspective. They're shopping around. And then at the bottom, that's one thing when you talk to people about, emphasize the two things that you can control out of everything you just talked about are the price and the condition of the property. Other things in there, you know, you'll be able to go into that, like what is the competition? You can't control that. What are the recent sales in the area? You can't control that. You know, what is the location? You can't control that. That kind of stuff you can't control. But the stuff you can control, that's what you're going to go into more. Okay, you're going to see this chart all over the place. You're going to see it if you guys do a comparable market analysis, a lot of times, I know Cloud CMA has it built in. A lot of the other ones have it built in. It talks about the idea, basically, this is the sweet spot in there. The reason why I'm showing this to you is you're going to explain this. And Ed, can we go, let's see, 2 more ahead? Nope. Okay, never mind. It's in the Word. Let me see if I can do this.
Which page are you looking for, Rob? I'll help you find it.
Okay.
What's it say on the page you're looking for?
This one.
That may not be in the presentation.
No, it's the doc. It's a Word doc.
Oh,
Pre-listing packet.
Okay, hold on.
It's on the page 4, I think.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
How do you, because if someone's selling their house, they always think, well, we have moments here. This is where we did that. How do you take away those memories?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, people have an emotional attachment to their house. If they have, like, if their kids grew up there and stuff like that. How do you try to take out that emotional when you do your listing appointment?
Well, how's it being presented to you?
Like, they'll be like, oh, my house is worth this much more because we have, you know, we have this, but then they start talking about like, oh, well, this used to be my kid's nursery or something like that.
Okay. Usually what you're going to end up with is that they put in something or they did something special because of their kids or because of that. And then that's when you can, you know, you go back to the idea that is really special. And I can see why you guys value it. You always want to affirm what people are thinking or feeling. because it's valid. A feeling is valid. So you always want to affirm it. But what you're going to be able to say is other people, though, they may not be able to, or other people didn't have that experience, or the shoppers, the buyers that are coming in, they're not going to have that experience. So as great and as precious that is to you, that's really not going to value any higher when we talk about the sales price. So that's how you would do that. Michael, you had your hand up.
I was just gonna say the same exact thing happened with my mom. She got a mural painted on her wall that is like something that's meaningful to her and my stepdad. And they were like, we were just like casually talking about when they'd sell their house in the next few years, and I mentioned that they'd have to paint that over because it's, I mean, I think it's really tacky, but I didn't say it like that, and I was really nice about it, but I was just like, no one else is gonna have this connection to like this scene on the wall, and your house would sell a lot faster if it was just like white walls, like not anything pertaining specifically to you. And she was so offended,
Yeah,
like really upset about it, like it like ruined her day. And so yeah, I've been trying to figure out a way that I could have said that differently, but I felt like I was so nice about it, and yeah, it just really messed with her.
Sometimes you'll get some age, you know, some sellers are gonna, even when you say, look, other people are not gonna appreciate it the way you know you do, and when they're shopping for a home, they're gonna shop for something that they can see themselves moving into. And if they don't appreciate it, then that may actually be a negative that could affect the price even the other way. Sometimes people are gonna be like, it shouldn't matter. Okay, fine. You go into it as you go into it, and Eric knows this. The home that was on Madison, we're actually at the right price if we were 2 lots in on the street. The reason why is because the home that we're selling, our list price was at $619. All the data showed that it should be $619, but we're also on an alley, and that's a negative. And so even when I tried to mention that to my seller, I could tell it'd be like, yeah, but we did all these different things to the home, and it's a beautiful home and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we'll see if that makes a difference, but I don't think we should, you know, worry about it at the beginning. Okay. So what I've done is every time we had an agent look at the home, because when they use the Supra, I automatically get the clocking in saying, hey, here's a person who used the home, here's their phone number, and here's their email address. And I would always send that agent a list of basic questions. What'd you think of the home? What'd you think of the renovation done? What did you think about, we even had pre-inspections done. So I put in there, you know, what did you think of the inspection reports and the repairs that were done from those? And the last question is, what did you think about the price? And then now I probably only got a fourth of the agents replying to those, but though every reply, I wouldn't even, you know, I would just immediately forward to my seller. And a number of those did talk about the price that, or sorry, take that back. 2 of them talked about the price. All the others that if it was a negative feedback, all said, well, the alley kind of bothered us. The alley bothered, you know, we weren't comfortable with the alley, you know, that kind of thing. So I kept giving that feedback. So when we did get an offer that was 10,000 below our asking price, we're in escrow now for that. But he had to kind of get prepped for that too, that, hey, we're probably asking too much. But instead of me being the bearer of bad news, I let all the other people's input tell him what the market is. Because sometimes that happens too. When you try and be the person that is like, well, no, this is what I say. Well, how do you know that? Okay, now I've had multiple agents come in, and a percentage of those that have responded to us, they're all agreeing that we're probably a little bit overpriced, at least for some of the features we have, i.e. an alley right next to us. So when we did get an offer lower, he was open to that offer. So sometimes that's, and this is when you tailor a lot of this stuff to, you know, the person. the idea that you can have everything generic sounds great, but the reality is that, you know, the more you can tailor this for people, the more it's going to present well to them. So instead of doing bulk, where you're sending out, you know, 50 of these every month, but then your return on investment is very little because everything's generic and you're doing everything quick and dirty, you may have to take a little bit more time. But let's say you're going on 5 appointments every month, but out of those 5, you get listings that actually are live. That's going to be when it's worth it. Okay, so on this here, this is the basics of selling a home. And at the top, you're going to be looking at the 3 different things. A well-priced home. In our office, a lot of times, depending on the home, people have said, and these are some of our top agents, they look at the price, and let's say the home should come in at $900,000, and they say, okay, we probably should price it about 7% less than that price. Because what that does is it creates more than one offer, and then you can have the offers compete, and then it can easily go above 900,000. That's that, and if you present that and they're not open to that, that's fine. An underpriced home, you're rarely going to find. Okay, let's face it, everybody wants to get as much money as they can. An underpriced home is going to sell super quickly. That's pretty obvious. However, a lot of times when you talk about, like I just mentioned, going 7% below, your sellers may think, well, now we're just underpricing the home. And so you have a conversation over this. And it's kind of thing where sometimes you need to build in to how you're going to talk about this then and talk about it later. The last one is an overpriced home. And sometimes it even is because of the emotional thing, like your mother's fabulous mural that she knows everybody is going to love. And you know, it's that like, oh, you know, lovely. It's, I can think of a few things. I won't, but you know, it's that, okay, the home is just overpriced, period. And for whatever reason, that will, you may have a lot of interest, but because right now we're in a seller's market, but you may not have a lot of offers. This is one thing I was told early on, that if you're in that situation, then say this to your sellers. And this has saved my butt a number of times. Okay, I understand that's the price you want to go with. I think it may be a little bit higher than doing a well-priced strategy. However, I want to support you and I want to go with that, and we'll do that. But if we don't get any offers in 2 weeks, let's go ahead and revisit the price, because the first 2 weeks are going to be crucial. And if we don't get anything on that, then maybe we need to do that. Is that okay? So then you're already setting up in their mind a couple things. One, you're fine with the price you're putting it on at, and you want to support them. But 2, that as those 2 weeks get closer, and if you don't get a real offer, then you may have to reduce the price and go in that direction. And I've like I said, I've had that talk with a few people that we were overpriced in, and we did end up in 2 weeks saying, okay, let's lower the price. And then also look at the normal days on the market too. One home I was selling at the time, the average days on the market was 37 days for that neighborhood, but we were at the high end of that neighborhood. So I told them, look, that's the average. So we're probably going to go beyond that 37 days because we are asking a lot higher than the other homes in the area. There were a few other homes that were priced higher, but I mean, overall. So I let him know, like, I already had that conversation ahead of time. So as we started approaching 1 month, he's not panicking. Well, he did panic, but I could remind him, hey, remember the average days on the market right now is 37. So it's going to take us, we're only on day 30, and that's average. We're probably going to be on the market longer. And you can even then have that conversation. If you want to reduce the price and create more interest, we can do that if you want. And sometimes I had one family go, yeah, we probably should do that. This other guy, nope, didn't want to do that. Okay. And sure enough, what panned out, panned out. The Downey home, we stayed on the market for quite a while, then finally got a buyer. Yay. The other home, they needed to sell quickly because literally they had an $8,000 mortgage payment coming up that they couldn't afford because they had a balloon mortgage. And we did reduce the price, and then we got 2 offers in that was right what we were looking at the reduction in the price that it should have been at originally. And then we sold the home. So when you have this conversation with people, this is kind of what you're looking at. But this is, a lot of times this kind of stuff is a great tool to go through with people if they're open to it. Again, I have my high D clients. If I went through them with this stuff, they're like, why the hell are you wasting my time? Just put my damn home on the market, okay? Tell me what price it should be and we're done. My high I person, we did this over coffee because we talked and we talked and we talked. And it just depends on who they are. And you want to adjust to that. Okay, next page, Ed. Questions for you. Wait, they ready to sell. Where the hell is that? No, yeah, next one, questions for you. Bingo. This is the kind of stuff where, and Amal, this goes to right what you were talking about. What's the most important thing are you looking for in an agent? So it's even asking, you know, right there. What is the top things? Have you had prior experiences? How would you like to be communicated with? You know, I mentioned that in the packet thing. How frequently would you like updates? Some people want to know after every open house what took place. Some people want to know, oh, what about just once a month, once a week, whatever. And how frequently would you like an update on, sorry, I switched them, on marketing. Those two kind of go together, you know, but you can ask them basically, how much do you want to know about what's going on in the area? How much you want to know what's going on specifically with your home? And then at the bottom, what are you most concerned with about selling the home? And this will communicate with you what is going to be the most important things to them. Open houses. Right now, people are going to be like, hey, I don't want open houses at all. Okay, we will go ahead and we will do, and some people will even say, I don't want anybody really walking into my house, a bunch of strangers. And so you can tell them, we can set it up to where we can do a Matterport 3D, we can do photos, and we can even do video tours. And then they will not tour the home until an offer is accepted. Now that's like the strictest way of having nobody come and visit the home. But then let them know, I will let you know that that will probably reduce the amount of offers we have. And that's fine. And if that's what you want to do, that's okay. But that may reduce the amount of offers. So we may be on the market longer or even sell for a little bit less than what you want. And if that's okay, that's fine with me, but I just want to let you know. So that's part of what you're sharing as an expert in the market. This is what you're sharing, like, hey, this is the way direction things are going. Other people, like especially, you know, I have, when I've sold homes that are vacant, like, I don't care, have anybody come in that you want. Okay, no problem. Open house is not a big deal. But for them, like I mentioned, you know, the one that we have in escrow now, for him, his biggest priority was pricing. But guess what his silent second is? He never mentioned, but the silent second is negotiations. He doesn't want to be nickeled and dimed to death. And I've picked that up on our interaction. So even though sometimes you go through this list, you find out what they want, listen to clues that tell them, that communicate things to you that weren't actually spoken. And that's when it really helps, when you pay attention to their style, what they're saying, or even as things go on. And then next page, this one's optional. This is like your about me sort of thing. And what I want to do is, Ed, I'm going to upload 2 things I created. And these are definitely in process, because now that this was all before I came to KW and I haven't really touched it since. And I want to show you what I used before I had all this stuff available, and I'm going to redo everything I have because of that. So first, if you can open up the first one, thank you. Okay, this is just, I made a cover, you know, clean and neat, and boom, it's just a cover sheet. Then right after that, where are we going?
Hold on.
Wait. Okay, page down. Okay. That's actually, I think, the last page, which is perfect. This is about the team. Sometimes this is when you can make this a little bit of fun and a little bit personal. That's the reason. The other stuff you can go through on your own. And you may want to put stuff in, take stuff out, do whatever you want. I don't care. This is whatever you want. But I have stuff in there for me, blah, 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 blah. But if you scroll down a little bit, wait, where are we? Shoot, I'm in my Acrobat. I'm not in yours.
Scroll down.
Last page. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm in my Acrobat. Okay, more about your team. Perfect, right there. Nope, next one up. Okay, stop. Thank you. This is when, you know, when it comes to, you know, personal stuff, people like this. People like doing business with you. I talk about using my dogs in marketing all the time. And when I did the marketing class, I told you, you guys are marketing all the time. So everything you do, put some marketing stuff into it, because anything you put out there is marketing. So as you can see, 1/3 of this page about the team is only about me. The other 2/3 of the page is about my furry babies. And if you just put in, hey, here's my credentials, here's this, here's that. Honestly, if somebody sent that to you, are you gonna really read that? Are you gonna give a crap? It's gonna get boring if you have a whole page just about this person. What is somebody gonna really pay attention to? So this is when you can make it fun. Now, why did I do this? Well, because when the first crappy office I was at, one of my agent buddies, he just loaned me his stuff. He gave me, you know, his documents and said, hey, this is kind of what I do better for a presentation. And he put about, hey, this is more about your team. And he put in, you know, this is about him. And then he put in his transaction coordinator. And then he put in the escrow company he always used, and blah, blah, blah. And all that seemed lovely, and all of that seemed boring. So I thought, well, wait, what if I do this kind of a take on it? And again, it doesn't mean you have to have a whole page like this. Doesn't mean you have to go out and get dogs to do this either. I'm just saying, in some of this, you can put something that's fun or something that's interesting. All of this, you're going to go through a lot of information when you do a seller's appointment. And unfortunately, the thing I feel that's a little bit lost in this Ignite lesson right here is it's not super interesting, to be honest. You know, I don't even want to, I mean, fun can be part of interesting, but some of it's really not interesting. It's a little bit boring. Even as I'm talking, I've seen some of you guys like begin to drop off a little bit, and I don't blame you. I'm the one talking. So, okay, fine, whatever. But make it a little bit interesting. So all the stuff that's customizable, customize it, make it interesting. Put some of that in there that makes it fun. So anyways, I uploaded those PDFs and you guys can download it. In this same exact thing on the last page on this, I put together, and if you guys want this, Ed, could you go to the last page? If you want to like, ooh, this looks stuff, I actually I manually copied and created this a few years ago, so I can send you the generic PDF without my crap on it. And this shows you the initial, you know, whole process, and it's really easy. The thing I liked about it, it's really easy to walk through and go, hey, this is where we're starting, and this is where we're going, and this is what's going on. So, Mr. Seller, any point, or Mrs. Seller, I don't want to, you know, don't want to discriminate, but anytime we're going through this and you're wondering where we are, I can show you this is where we're at. You know, this is what's going on. And it can show you then at the bottom is your goal. Over here is where you're going to get the home sold. And this is where right above it is that's where you get paid. But if somebody's never been through the selling process, this is something that's really helpful. Okay. That's why I included all this stuff. I am not a guru on this. Oh my God, not at all. I just told you guys, you know what, the pre-listing packet that they have, I'm going to incorporate some of that. I'm going to streamline some of this that I've already put together. You're going to make it your own as well, but do that. This whole time, and I promise we're going to end in like 2 minutes. But this whole time that we're talking, this actually Ignite session, they wanted us to go through the whole thing of creating the listing presentation. When you go into Command and you go into the designs, you can click on the listing presentation and it kind of walks you through. Don't think it's going to take you 20 minutes to do. It's actually going to take quite a while to put the initial one together, because you're going to have to put in all your information, customize it, all that sort of thing. It is nice, and I do like it, so yay, sort of thing. But that is going to take you a while to do. But I wanted to give you guys some of the stuff that I've done, because one of the things that I got on here, let's see, I showed you that. In the other document I sent you, and again, it's no big deal. I have on here seller's favorite features. What are some of the things you love about the home? Michael, you mentioned that your mom is going to put down this mural that she loves. Great, no problem. But I even put at the bottom, what are potential, and where I took this from said, what are negatives? I'm like, oh my God, you don't want to put in, that's terrible, because you're going to ask somebody, what do you think's crappy about your home? Most people are not going to be honest about that. But I put in, what are potential price negotiators? What do you mean by that? Well, what do you think that you really think are really great about the home, but you know somebody else coming in the home may not see, or things that you know about the home may need a little bit of work. And it also sets them up that, let's say they're going to ask $800,000 for their house, but then you start to go through that list, it starts to set them up. Maybe that 800 is going to be a little bit unreasonable. So that's why I have this included in mine. And that's also in the other PDF that I uploaded to you. So, feel free. You guys can email me and I can easily email this stuff to you. And if you want a simple, I had that whole graph chart. I have another one here that I basically took off of something else. But this is another chart. You're going to find these all over the place on the whole process of selling and buying a home. And that makes it easier. All of this to say, when you create a pre-listing packet, when you create a listing presentation, make it your own. Take the best that you can find. When you're in this listing template itself, I downloaded it, and I think it's almost 30 pages if you leave everything in there. Well, if you have somebody that's a high D, they're already pissed off at you as soon as they get that in the mail. It's way too much information. But if you have somebody analytical, they're in love with you because it gives them stuff to look at. So edit it, make sure what is the priority for the person there, bring in stuff that you want, leave out stuff you don't want. If you want to add in stuff, like I mentioned, some of the charts, some of the other things, do that, because then when you're presenting it, it's you presenting it. And you're going to be able you're going to be able then to get to know your client the best, but you're also going to be able to communicate with them what you have to offer to them. One thing I think that is really valuable that out of this whole Ignite thing, anybody can give a presentation on well, I shouldn't say anybody. A lot of people can give a presentation on listing presentation. Thing I really like about that we covered in this is the idea of the pre-listing packet and the pre-listing questionnaire, because this will save you a lot of time as far as if somebody's really ready to sell and how serious they are, as opposed to kicking the tires. On top of that, it'll also present two things. One, you're very professional, that you're going to go through and you're going to be very thorough, and it gets to know their needs better, and it starts that repertoire. I said it again, Ed, but it starts that repertoire that you have between the two of you. So any questions? Because that's my 2 minutes and I can't talk anymore.
So now let's move ahead to ahas, Rob, yeah?
Yeah, okay, great. What are some ahas? What are things that you're like?
I mean, did you want to cover anything else? Did we?
No, we're over time, so I don't want to take up too much time. What ahas?
The aha is that the main thing, what I got that to make it about them, like concentrate, it's about them, what they want, what they want from the agent, what they want from selling the home. So when you understand very well what they want, then it's easier to go on with the presentation.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things.
For me, it was know what type of person you're dealing with as far as like the disc. That way you're not wasting their time and you're not wasting your time. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, one size does not fit all. Trust me, my Jamal is a size 15. I'm a size 13. Anything else?
Yeah, mine is, and this is Elmas, mine is actually seeing the frame of the presentation and how we need to start and this process actually, and I didn't know that kind of process. Thank you for that.
Yeah, when I first got into real estate, I shot from the hip all the time, and I realized, oh crap, when it comes to this, I need to be prepped ahead of time. There is no shooting from the hip.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
This was another one I really liked teaching because it forced me to go through some of this that I haven't had a chance to go through. And I really do like, especially if you don't have a listing presentation put together yet, the one that's in there as a template, think of it as a template, but it's a great template to then edit and make your own. So go in there and do that. I know that's one thing. I have 2 homes in escrow right now. And once that's over with, that's one thing I'm going to revamp is my whole listing presentation. That's what I'm going to incorporate too. Thank you.
Well, awesome, Rob. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Let's all give a
Thank
round
you,
of
Rob.
applause to Rob. Doing an awesome
Thank
job.
you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody. Have a great holiday
Looking
weekend.
forward.
The next Ignite is on Monday at 11:30. And Rob, you too, especially. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful holiday weekend. Bye, everybody. See you soon.